Hey folks, Jamie Crow here, coming back at you doing a really quick video. Today I'm answering a subscriber question regarding the book of Goetia Pathworkings by Corwin Hargrove. I actually did this as part of a book comparison between this one and Demons of Magic by Gordon Winterfield, who is the author with the Gallery of Magic. But this subscriber has a specific question regarding um, working with the elemental circle in this book, and I'm going to go ahead and cover her question here. I do apologize that I really haven't been putting a lot of videos out this past week or two. I'm still, you know, started. I started new work. I work in a production factory now. Our hours are kind of crazy. Most days I have off are usually Sunday, and that day is usually used getting caught up with errands and doing laundry and all sorts of other things. So I really haven't had much time to do videos up to this point. But I'm trying to get that taken care of. So just hang in with me there. I've got a couple orders of herbs and a few other things coming in, herbs, crystals, and I will be getting back on track with some of my videos here, especially with the voodoo doll segments that I've been looking to want to do here. So just kind of bear with me there a bit. Everything's coming. I just need a little bit of time to get everything situated. But to go on with her question, she says, I've read this book over and over, and nowhere does it say what to do with the initial elemental breath with 9 foot wide circle of fire. Do we breathe it into the sigil or not? Do we breathe it in at each separate description given at the end? After the water has transformed into fire, I'm so confused. Can you clear this out for me, please? Certainly I can. First of all, when we're talking about the initial elemental circle, this is covered in the book under the category or under the title of the Pathworking method, and it covers the casting of the elemental circle. Now, you don't have to use this method in the book if you don't want to. Okay, if you have another method that you want to use to cast your elemental circle, you are more than happy to go ahead and use that. I recommend the book simply just because it's a very simplified version. If you want to cast your own elemental circle like you've done forever and ever, by all means go ahead and do that. If you have some other circle casting method, like I said, go ahead and use it. That's totally fine. But on page 36 of that chapter, he does describe, and I'll just go ahead and read that part of the book really quick. And it says, in the path working itself, the elements are represented symbolically in this order: earth, air, water, and fire. That's the same order used to create the elemental circle. The method is very straightforward. With your eyes open or closed, imagine a circle of earth around you. How you imagine this is up to you. And then he goes on to describe, how he imagines a circle of earth, himself. He also states that, some people prefer to swap out words. If you want to use the word ring instead of circle, that's totally fine. There's nothing, wrong with, swapping out terminology. Okay. Also, if he also describes that you're going to imagine this in a 9 foot wide circle. If you want to imagine it larger than that, you can do that. If you want to imagine it smaller, you can do that. Again, what he describes in the book is, think of it as a guideline. Okay. Again, your magical practice and how you practice it is going to be different than what somebody else does. That's what makes your practice your own and not somebody else's. Also, if you want to say, mark your circle in your temple area, I know a lot of people that do that, and I sometimes still do that. You can take masking tape or electrical tape, duct tape if you want to mark out, a 9 foot wide circle, on your floor. You could go ahead and do that. If you want to do it larger or smaller because you're in a smaller space. Again, if that helps you set your boundaries and helps you with casting your circle, by all means, whatever works for you, you should go ahead and do that. I'm kind of here to help guide you in that, and Corwin Hargrove, the author of the book, is there to help guide you and give you a guideline as well. But feel free to proceed with it how you would want to. Okay, at least at this particular point. The rest of the material, it is going to be a little bit more structured, so you do want to follow those guidelines at that point. But and then you're going to go ahead and continue with the other elements. You imagine the element, surrounding you, those elements surrounding you. You could go ahead. The way that I do it is I just envision myself being surrounded by a whirling vortex of earth. And you can, if you want to see this as, rocks spinning around, or earth, boulders or whatever spinning around you, creating that circle of protection, then, that's fine. If you want to do each individual element and say, the rocks are, then become a, swirling vortex of air, you can do that, and then move on to water, then fire. If you want to add, say an element, to each one, so that you have all 4 elements circling you at once. I mean, again, you can do that if you want to see, swirling vortex of earth. This could be sand or dust. Again, boulders or rocks, and then imagine, seeing that whirling vortex of air added that into there, and then water, and then fire. Again, go ahead and do that. If that's not, if you don't think that that's too complicated. I mean, it really isn't. All you're doing is imagining it, and if you're like some of these people that say, "Oh, I can't imagine something like that," then, I mean, tell yourself a story. Close your eyes and just say, I am surrounded by, a whirling vortex of earth, and then, describe it to yourself. And, your subconscious mind isn't really going to, know the difference, to begin with. So go ahead and, again, do what works for you. At this point, you're not even doing any type of work with the demon whatsoever. So at no point are you taking any of these elements and blowing them onto the sigil, or awakening the demon through the sigil with any of these elements. This is your preliminary work. This is your circle casting, your protection circle. None of this has to do with the demon at this point, okay? Only after you've cast a circle and you've completed that, and then you move into the work with the demon, is where you're actually going to be worried about blowing or awakening the demon, or getting their attention through the evocation keys. Okay, and if we look at, say, Forkalor, who is the 41st demon, in the book, and this is his sigil here, and here are the evocation keys. We'll say, we want to use Forkalor to bring failure to a business. Let's say we have a business competitor that we want to remove, and we're going to use Forkalor. So, once you've casted your elemental circle and you're looking to bring the demon forth in order to make contact with them, obviously you're going to be looking at the sigil. And in case if you didn't know, each of these has 4 evocation keys, and the first one, which reads "Moonlight through mist over a field of rocks," is actually a representation of Earth. Okay, each of these is a representation of the elements in order as to how you cast your circle. Okay, the next one, the sound of metal being hammered, would be the element of air. Okay, and then the smell of freshly dug soil, that would be the element of water. And then finally, a dark blue sky with a golden sun would represent fire. As you're reading that evocation key for folklore, again, in our example here, you would simply imagine that, envision each separate element. So the moonlight through mist over a field of rocks, you would just envision that, what that would look like, in your mind, and then just, breathe that over the sigil. Okay, and then imagine the sound of metal being hammered. Again, you're going to, envision that in your mind. Okay, and all your breath is basically transferring all those elements to the sigil at this point. Okay, there's and he describes that again. Hargrove describes that in the book, how that's possible, because we're made of carbon, so there's your element of earth. Our breath is has an air element to it as well as a water element because it's moist, and then it also has a fire element because it's warm. Okay, so all those elements are being transferred to the sigil. You make contact with the demon. You sense their presence. You know that they're there, and then you continue on with the rest of the ritual at that point. Once you make contact with them, you make your request. You follow through with your visualization. And remember, when you're following through with your visualization, imagine that you already have what it is that you want, or already that you have your desire. That's already been completed by the demon. And imagine how how this feels. Again, if we're going to imagine what it might be like, for folklore to remove, say, a business competitor from our vicinity, let's say, what would that mean to you if that competitor was out of the way? You imagine that. Imagine how you would feel, to have greater profits, to have less competition, whatever other elements that there might be, how would it feel for you if you had, say, like, a monopoly on the market for something? What would it be? What would it mean for you? And then bring that emotion forward, bring that emotion to the surface and experience it, and have that emotion of, alchemical transformation of emotion. This is basically, emotional alchemy at this point. You're visualizing your goal. It's done. The demon's completed it. Thank the demon at that point. Feel that and thank the demon for assisting you, and then close out the rest of the ritual. I hope that this really answers your question concerning the using the elemental circle with the Goetia Pathworking book by Corwin Hargrove. If you have any other questions, folks, please, of course, put them in the comment section down below. Let me know what it is that you might be having difficulty with. If I can go ahead and do a short video and answer that question for you, I'll be more than happy to get that done for you, all right? Until then, I thank you very much, folks. You have a great night. Take care, and infernal blessings. Bye.